We've been told that we are what we eat, but even healthy food on a store shelf is less nutritious than just picked produce from the farm. What if there were a way to offer fresh quality that was shelf stable? Would you be interested? Well, now you can. One of the things that I love about natural, or as I like to say, what makes natural natural, is the real creative genius that so many brands have. The creative, disruptive strategies that brands leverage to give their customers exactly what they want. Let me explain. If you are what you eat, then what you eat matters. People, your customers that get that, understand the quality of the food matters above everything else. In other words, spending a few pennies at shelf is a lot cheaper in the long run because you're giving your body what it needs. Let me illustrate what I mean. If you get the cheap generic bread, then you're hungry almost before you finish eating it. If you eat the best mainstream bread, then you may be satiated for 3 or 4 hours. However, if you eat the organic bread, then you may be satiated for longer if it's giving your body the nutrients that it needs to thrive and grow. Therefore, a few pennies more at shelf is cheaper in the long run because that you're eating less bread. Now, let's go one step further. The better the quality, the better the organic products you put into your body, the more they sustain you. So if you eat something as fresh, or even better yet, something that's created using regenerative agriculture, that could be even more nutrient dense. So why does this matter? What if I told you that there's a creative technology that can make that level, that quality of ingredient shelf stable? Think of all the applications. Think of all the things that you could do to enhance your products. As Gary Hirschberg once said, the food that we eat should spoil, meaning that it doesn't have any preservatives in it. Imagine now being able to take a product that would normally spoil, usually pretty quickly, and adding a functional ingredient, other products to enhance it, and then making it last even longer on the shelf, or perhaps possibly increasing the nutrient value of the product that you're eating. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we go any further, I want to remind you that there's a free downloadable guide for you at the end of every podcast episode. I always include one easy to download, quick to digest strategy that you can instantly adopt and make your own. One that you can use to grow sustainable sales and compete more effectively with. Remember, the goal here is to get your product onto more store shelves and into the hands of more shoppers. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a review. And don't forget to go back and listen to previous podcast episodes where I may solve some of your most pressing bottlenecks. And on the new YouTube channel, you may see some of the interviews that I've had with some of your favorite guests and thought leaders in the industry. Now here are Greg, Tom, and Richard. Hi guys, thank you for joining me today. Can you please start by telling us a little bit about yourselves and your journey to where you're at today? Greg, do you want to start?
Sure. Thanks for having us, Dan. Really appreciate the opportunity. My name's Greg Newman, and I'm CEO of Desert Lake Technologies and Oregon Dry Tech. And we'll tell you a little bit about the two companies and how they began and how long they've been operating, what we do. With me, I've got two of my key guys. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Tom Valenzuela, VP of Operations for Desert Lakes Technology and co-owner of Oregon Dry Tech.
I am Richard Newman, Director of Sales for Oregon Dry Tech.
Thank you for doing that. You guys look way too comfortable over there on the right, so we'll see if we can get you up on your feet. Just kidding. So anyhow, so please tell us what is it that you guys do? And the reason I wanted to go here is that you guys have an innovative technology, an innovative solution that is, I believe, is going to revolutionize the way we think about healthy superfoods, nutrition, etc. And so let's frame it around what is the problem you guys are trying to solve, and then how does your solution solve it specifically?
Right. Okay. Well, we'll start with Desert Lake Technologies or DLT as we call it, because that's been around the longest and actually spawned Oregon Dry Tech. So I'll just at a high level explain what we do and how they interact. Basically, we started Desert Lake Technologies 20 years ago, and my father and I started the company, and he ran and built the company, basically harvesting a very rare type of blue-green algae off of a lake in southern Oregon called Klamath Lake. And it's a blue-green algae called AFA. And different from chlorella, different from spirulina, has properties that neither of those two have. And we started playing around with, harvesting and selling, wild harvesting and selling this algae. And then along the way, what we decided to do was there were compounds in AFA that allowed us to do interesting, innovative things. And so we started coming up with ways of isolating and concentrating those compounds and creating products with them. So now we have a whole host of products, some of which DLT sells in bulk, to, B2B, to the nutritional supplement industry predominantly, and food industry. And then a couple of our products, actually we sell exclusively to an MLM company called Cerule. And Cerule sells those products to the general public typically in encapsulation form. But one of the key things about being able to save those compounds and not kill them off in the processing was the drying technology. And basically, most of the commercial drying technologies that existed 20 years ago used a lot of heat and did an effective job of drying products, but killed flavor, nutritional content, and color off. And so we had to come up with ways of drying, and we did so. And we innovated some interesting dryer technology. And about 2.5 years ago, Tom and I decided to spin the dryer company off as a separate company, and we started offering toll drying services to the food industry, nutritional supplement industry, and even the pharma industry. Guys, did I miss anything?
That's pretty much it.
And so we started toll drying for these companies where they send their product to Klamath Falls here in Southern Oregon, and we run them on our dryers. So we have a dryer farm that obviously we use for our algae, but we have a lot of extra capacity on those. So we're filling them up now with other products from customers around the country, around the world, actually. And along the way, we've been approached several times to sell our dryers or to manufacture and sell them. And so we started working on that. We've got, we haven't done it yet, but we have, 5 or 6 companies around the world that have shown a lot of interest in buying our dryers. And again, this is a really unique dryer because it does a gentle drying of the food or nutritional supplement products without destroying the nutritional value or the flavor profile or color profile of the product.
Thank you for going through all that. So there's a lot to unpack there. So let's dig into it. So what are the 3 different types of algae again that you mentioned, and what's unique about them? Why does it matter? Why would anyone listening to this care? And what I'm getting at here, Greg, and thank you for going through that, is what are the unique properties that you're isolating based upon what you're harvesting? And then why is it relevant to me as a consumer? And how is that going to change the industry? I know there's a lot there, so if anyone wants to chime in, Greg, go ahead. Yeah,
great question. So basically, the 3 kind of blue-green algae that I mentioned were chlorella and spirulina. Those are the 2 best known, and they're popular. You can walk into almost any grocery store and find them on the shelves. A 3rd type is commonly referred to as Klamath Lake algae. You can find that on some grocery stores, but while chlorella and spirulina can be commercially grown, meaning they can be grown in ponds anywhere in almost anywhere in the world, AFA or Klamath Lake algae cannot. It can only be wild harvested, and it's only available in a couple of locations throughout the world. And Klamath Lake is the only location in the world where it can be harvested, where the infrastructure exists to be able to actually harvest it. The other places, there's a lake in Iran, which makes it a little tough for Westerners to get in and harvest. And then there's also one in Kazakhstan. Again, a little hostile and no infrastructure whatsoever, no roads, no electricity, makes it pretty tough to get in and do it. So Klamath Lake is really the only viable option, or one of the few viable options in the world where you can harvest this stuff. And the reason people should care are the interesting compounds that exist in AFA. Alphanamon floss aqua is the scientific name. That's why we call it AFA. And basically, it has a couple of compounds in it that don't exist in the other types of blue-green algae. So, for instance, it has PEA, phenylethylamine, which is the love chemical in our brain. It makes us feel better. It's what's in chocolate and other things that people tout. But it's a very powerful compound on providing neuro health. And there's so much scientific evidence out there about that. And one of the interesting things is AFA is loaded with PEA, far more than what you get by eating chocolate. So if chocolate makes you feel good, AFA should make you feel incredible. And it helps. It's been clinically proven to help with a lot of neuro imbalances. So we talk a lot about it helping in with anxiety and with general mental balancing. And we've had a lot of anecdotal reports about that throughout the world. Then there's also other compounds that are incredible immune boost properties within AFA, far more than what you get. Spirulina and chlorella will have some immune boost, but we've clinically shown our AFA blue-green algae to have far superior immune properties that help balance and really increase your immune response. And of course, right now, given our environment and what's going on, I think we all need a healthier, better immune system. And so AFA is a phenomenal has phenomenal immune boost properties. And so in general, that's what you get with AFA. What we've done is we've actually isolated some of these compounds and extracted them and concentrated them into separate products. So one product that we did, for instance, that Cerule sells exclusively is a stem cell product called Stem Enhance. And we isolated 3 different compounds out of the algae, concentrated that, and have run double-blind clinical studies, multiple, and have published papers and patents on this product that boosts the stem cell migration in your body. So it enhances your body's natural stem cell creation and circulation of those stem cells. It's been shown on average of about 30% for people. So you take it and there's a stem cell, a measurable stem cell response within usually about 30 minutes, 45 minutes of taking the product, and it lasts several hours. So that's been clinically proven that our product does that. And again, that's a Cerule product called Stem Enhance. There's another compound that we've isolated out of blue-green algae called phycocyanin, or we call it PC for short. And again, we have 2 products. We have a bulk product that we sell out of DLT to companies called Cyanin Plus. And then we also have productized this with Cerule in a product called Cyactive. And what that is a whole body inflammation management product. And it's been, again, clinically proven. We've done clinical studies, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies have published papers in scientific journals around phycocyanin being a phenomenal COX-2 inhibitor and 5-LOX inhibitor. Not to get too technical, but there's multiple pathways of inflammation in your body. And inflammation in general is the root cause of a lot of other diseases, heart disease, and even has been shown to be a major issue with the COVID-19 virus going on. Inflammation of the lungs is kind of where that COVID-19 settles. And so having a tool that helps manage inflammation throughout your whole body is key. And Cyanin Plus and Cyactive have been proven clinically to reduce whole body inflammation and help manage that in 2 of the normal 3 types of inflammation pathways in our body. So it does so without the side effects that you get from over-the-counter medicines like ibuprofen and things like that. Those are effective at shutting down one of the pathways, COX-2, but Cyactive and Cyanin Plus are able to actually control 2 different pathways.
Cool. And thank you for sharing. So would you please give me links to proper spellings and stuff like that so I can put that in the show notes? And the reason, yeah, thank you for doing that. So let me kind of dumb this down because that's really, there's a lot of information there. So I make the reference that, if you are what you eat and if what you eat matters. And if you believe what you eat matters, then eating the better products are better for you. So I always use the analogy that if I go in and I eat the cheap the cheap generic bread, I'm hungry before I finish eating it. If I eat the best whole grain bread, I may be satiated for a few hours. But if I eat the best organic bread, and if I believe that I am what I eat, then those extra nutrients are going to fuel my body longer. Therefore, I'm going to be satiated longer. Therefore, I'm going to get more benefit. And the point here is that even if I'm spending more at shelf for that bread, I am getting a better product as a result. I'm getting better value. And so what you're saying, to kind of put it in your context, is that if you're eating the best, purest ingredients, then you're going to get the most benefit. So let's back up way far. So one of the things I've done a lot of work with in the supplement category, and I think a lot of people don't understand that even if you take whole food supplements, whole food ingredients, and you put those together under high heat or pressure, the heat actually bakes out the nutrients. And the process of capturing the ingredients that a lot of companies use, those are not as pure because of the way that, like you were saying, the dryer, that overheats or overcooks, if you will, wrong terminology maybe, the ingredients. And so the best way to get the ingredients out of it is to use the slow drying process. And here's why I'm going with that. So I did, and I'll go ahead and say it, I did a lot of work with Megafood. And they've got an amazing way of extracting the benefits of products, of whole food supplements, and adding that into their product without using high heat pressure, etc. So they're the equivalent of what you're doing, although you're doing a lot more and a lot better, obviously. But my point is, as a point of illustration, that because of the way that they produce their products, I have a really good understanding of what you're saying generically. Now we'll take this to the next level. So to kind of explain what I'm getting at, a lot of companies bake what they're creating, and they bake it not only in an oven or a dryer or something like that, but because they're trying to speed up the process, whatever they're trying to do, that cooks out the ingredients. So when you're talking about your dryer, anyone who's listening, first of all, if you've got a link that we could get to, that we could share as to how the dryer is actually working, I'd love to show your technology. Certainly Megafood has the same thing. But the point, and this is not a commercial about Megafood, it's just an illustration. But the point is, if you're taking a long time to slowly dry something, then you're leaving all the nutrients in, you're pulling out the water, and then you've got a powder that is extremely nutrient dense, that does a lot more for your body. So back to the bread example, if I'm ingesting your product, I'm getting a lot more benefit than I'd get beyond the other products Not to mention the fact that the algae that you're extracting is far more potent, as you've illustrated, than what else is out there. So, can you comment on that and maybe help bring that illustration to life? And do you have a way to that a link that someone could go to kind of get an illustration of how this works? Because very scientific, but the simple fact is that this is the best way to get the best quality results of the best quality nutrients.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I'll ask Tom and Rick to weigh in on something in a second, to talk a little more about some of the companies we've worked with and have been talking to. You mentioned Mega Foods, and those guys are using a similar technology that they bought years ago, and they do a fantastic job, from everything I hear. And it's the technology itself, the drying technology itself. You can read about on the desertlake.com website, and we call it the Hydro Dry. We've since created a new version of the dryer, and so Oregon Dry Tech calls that the Enviro Dry. The new version, and there's a reason for it that we'll get into in a little bit, because we've innovated some new other key features that we've found our customers are extremely interested in making sure that we had. So the idea here is, it's a slower drying process on purpose, and you nailed it on the head. The reason it doesn't have the throughput that, for instance, other drying technologies like spray drying has, is because we're drying things at a slower pace in order to preserve the nutritional content, the flavor content, the color content, things that are important to our customers. And so really, it's not a technology for every company out there. There's a lot of companies that pump out, to your reference, not very nutritious products. It could be a bread that is, just they don't care as much about the quality, the nutritional content, the flavor content, and so they can use other types of drying technology to get there. But if there's a company that really cares about the nutritional profile of their product or the flavor profile of their product, Tom and Rick, maybe you guys can talk real quick about, not mention any of our company, our customers by name because of confidentiality, but give a profile of one of the companies that we've been working with from California.
Due to mutual non-disclosure agreements, we can't actually mention names without their permission. But in general, if it can be, we typically work with organic food companies. Those are the folks that we find their ethos aligns really well with us. At Desert Lake Technologies, we are super concerned about the absolute quality. That's paramount to anything else, even throughput. But even though we've made massive improvements to the drying technology to improve the throughput for the folks that are always considering the cost of goods, their COGS. But if it's an organic, it doesn't have to be organic, but if quality is the very first part of the equation that you're getting into, any fruit, any vegetable, we've even done meat products from overseas that showed up in puree form, and we were able to successfully dry that, and literally on the ingredients package that they have, we used absolutely no preservatives whatsoever, nor carriers on some of them. Now, the higher fructose things sometimes require an organic carrier because of the binding qualities, and that's a scientific thing, scientific deal that we can go down the rabbit hole with. But we found ways to successfully dry those items or those products on behalf of other companies at an industrial scale. And when you read the back of the package, there's no other ingredients. There's no 3-syllable, 4-syllable words that nobody understands that in terms is something either synthetic or a way of preserving that product. We can take an organic food, fruit, vegetable, or meat, and without adding anything to it, give it a 2 to 5 year shelf life with 0 preservatives. Now, it sounds like your folks that are following you and watching your podcast that should be a big deal to people. And, you know, there's a lot of companies out there and a lot of folks that, you know, especially during these times, you know, eating the best possible food that's unadulterated should be, you know, on the forefront of what they're doing, because everything counts. It's not only the supplements that you take, but it's the food that you were mentioning that you eat. Everything counts in it, and if you can ingest things that are going to be the healthiest for your body, then your immune system has no choice but to boost itself. So that's always been our ethos. With the algae that we work with, it's very finicky algae and it's very difficult to work with. That's why there aren't a lot of companies that have successfully done it. And I would say when it comes to processing AFA algae, there's nobody better in the world than us. Because of the ethos that we've always followed. Greg and his father Howard, who founded this company, have always made that a point for any of our processes, that it either has to follow organic GMP qualifications. We're also halal certified for the Muslim world, and we're also kosher certified for the Jewish world. So we were kind of following, I would say, a scientific hippie way of doing things way before it was cool.
I love that. That's great. Well, and thank you for sharing that. And to back up a little bit, and I know I keep saying that, but I think I was sharing with you guys on the call when we talked previously that I'm actually the founder in a organic sweetener company, which is really cool. Part founder, one of them. And so I had to learn a lot about spray dry technology and stuff like that. And if you can imagine spraying something out of a garden hose, but atomizing it so you've got the droplets, and then drying it before it hits the ground. And so then again, you've got the high heat. And so that's what you're talking about there. But yeah, my point is, so the fact that you guys can isolate the product itself and then put it into a raw package, that's fantastic. So one of the reasons why I was so thrilled when you guys reached out to me and why we're so aligned in having this conversation is because a lot of brands are trying to think of innovative ways to change the market, change the way we think about food. Plant-based is such a big trend right now. And the challenge is when you look at organic and you look at other products that are out there on the shelf life is extremely short because quality foods should spoil. And that was another reason why I was so excited about what you guys are doing. So imagine going out and buying your favorite organic product that is actually better for you because it's more nutrient dense based upon what you do. And then in addition to that, add a shelf stable component to it that does not add any chemicals or anything to it that pulls out the nutrients. Can you talk about that? Because that's really revolutionary.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been seeing that our customers care about is exactly what you just pointed out, okay? They're looking for ways to create shelf-stable products to give them longer to be able to sell it, to be able to offer it to customers. So, we turn things into powders, basically. So we can take food products, and we've been doing this a lot. You name it, strawberries, mangoes, we've done celery and spinach and kale and beets, and I mean, you name it. We've been drying it on our dryers recently, and we create powders. Now, why would a company want to take their fresh spinach and turn it into a powder, or their fresh mangoes and turn them into a powder. Well, if you think about it for a while, you've got an opportunity there to create a new product category, and you have a way to lengthen your sales cycle. So usually if you're selling a fresh product, you've got a certain number of days to be able to pick that product and move it to a grocery store somewhere where you could sell that product fresh. After that, it goes bad, and you've lost whatever opportunity to be able to sell the product. So being able to take this process, and by process it, I don't mean by using artificial means or anything like this. I'm simply talking about taking a product. Here's what we did with mangoes. We take the mango, we puree it, which means we put it in a super blender and create a paste and make it the right solids content density so that it sprays onto our dryer appropriately. And it goes through our dryer tunnel and comes out the other side a powder, which we then usually vacuum seal, mylar bag the product. And we keep the moisture content very low. And with that, no bacteria can grow within the product. If your moisture content is set at a certain level, there's no bacteria that can grow. So that's always what we're doing. We're making sure that the moisture content of our final product, what gets bagged, is a product then that has a shelf life of a couple of years. Now that farmer has the ability to sell that product over an extended period of time. And that's very attractive to a lot of these customers. Also, if they sell it, let's say overseas, there's a huge market in Asia for produce and other things grown here in the US. The ability to ship it without shipping water, without shipping. So they used to can things and send the cans over. Well, that locks in a certain level of shelf life for sure. But usually you have to have preservatives to be able to extend that shelf life, number one. And number two, you're shipping a can with a bunch of water, which is expensive. And so they love the alternative of being able to just ship the product and still have a 2 to 5 year shelf life, depending on the product, and get it to their markets in Asia, who then in turn use it for their food products and food production, whether it's putting it in a smoothie or a recipe of some kind. We've even done products. There was a company that makes organic soup, and we dried their soup for them, and then they were able to actually sell it in packets to their customers. We're talking to companies like spice companies that are interested in, if you're a spice company, what do you care most about? The flavor. Well, drying it with spray dryers or drum dryers kills a huge amount of that flavor. So being able to dry it on our dryers are not only going to lock in whatever nutritional benefits that these spices have, but also the flavor, which is what everyone cares about. And so there's so many different companies that have we've been interacting with since we started Oregon Dry Tech that we're very excited to work with. And we're actually running a test on coffee here pretty soon as well. And so, if you think about coffee, most of the powder, dried powder that you can buy in a grocery store is either freeze-dried or spray-dried, quite honestly. And the quality of it is not very good, which is why we would rather go to a Starbucks or a Pete's Coffee and get a high-quality product that tastes good than having a can of Folgers in your cupboard. But being able to utilize new types of drying technology, we believe we can create a coffee product with a partner that we're working with that's going to be far better than what exists out there today as far as a powdered coffee that you can do, short of buying the beans and grinding it fresh yourself.
And I love the way you
with
go ahead,
that,
please do.
Just add stick packs in somebody's purse or their wallet, not their wallet, but in their pocket that they can carry around 10 cups of coffee that they could either be in tea bag form or just a stick pack that they dump in boiling water or hot water and mix. And one, a lot less expensive. Two, easy to carry around. And three, if you're properly locking in the flavor profile, I think it's a difference between just having a regular cup of Joe at a cafe that tastes just like any other cafe, or being able to bring out the true flavor profile of a Colombian or a African coffee or something like that. It would be a major difference.
Not to mention the antioxidants that stay in it with the right drying technique, because it typically gets burned off and you lose everything nutritional in it. So
thank you for being actually, and I'm so glad you said that. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something else?
No, I was just saying it's really exciting for us to start that project, to do that.
I think it's great what you guys are doing. Again, this is why I love their technology, and to kind of frame this so help people understand it. I mean, to kind of make it really super simple, stupid, so people like me can get it. Just kidding. No, I get it completely. I remember when I worked for Unilever many years ago, and at the time, Whisk was the #1 detergent in the country. And Whisk went to a 3 times concentration. So you had a big bottle and you went to a small bottle real quick, and the consumer didn't understand that was the same thing. That's why the product failed. But the point was the amount of product that you could put on a truck and ship because of all the water that you're shipping. Think about all the soda companies that all their shipping is water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so to reduce that, now let's put that in today's terminology because of what's going on with COVID and pandemics and stuff like that. I went out and I bought a bunch of produce before this happened, not knowing that this was going to happen. And the challenge is now if I want to go buy more produce, I've got to physically go into the store. Well, that's not a good thing if you're older or immune compromised, etc. But I could have that same quality as if I had planted it myself, and it was regenerative agriculture. Let me frame that way, this way instead. One of the things I focus a lot on this podcast is that quality, the difference between the quality. And I talk about this as being sort of the ripple in the pond. And so the customers that get what we're talking about, that's where the ripple begins. Before it becomes a tidal wave and ends up on a Kroger shelf, or a tsunami and ends up on a Walmart shelf in terms of illustration. And so going back to the bread example, if you are what you eat, etc. So regenerative agriculture produces a far better product that's more nutrient dense than something else, and than a lot of other products. And that has a lot to do with the quality of the soil, the quality of the air, the quality of the water, etc. There are a lot of components in there. A lot of people don't think about where their food comes from and how it's produced, etc. So if you're producing a product, a food product, corn doesn't matter, and you're using dirty water, then the quality of your product is not going to be as good. Think about the difference between a $3 bottle of wine and a $3,000 bottle of wine. How about we use that idea? And so what you're talking about is being able to create that $3,000 bottle of wine in terms of, that's what these companies are taking that quality of an ingredient. But what you're doing is you're extending the shelf life. You're saving or protecting those ingredients in their best form, so they're as pure as can possibly be. And then to your point, Tom, now I've got the ability to have the convenience of getting anytime I want. And to your point, Richard, I've got the ability of having the high quality, the things that you would typically lose as you're processing things, meaning no matter how you make it. So again, that's why this is so critically important, that people understand what this is and how this works. Now, the other reason this matters, going back to that ripple in the pond, is that as consumers are looking to healthy products, especially now with what's going on with COVID, everyone needs to eat. And the best defense, as you talked about a minute ago, Greg, is the best defense against COVID or any illness, doesn't matter what it is a nutritious diet. And so if we can help people get a nutritious diet that's more convenient, that's more cost effective, that's more everything else that we're looking for, that it's on demand, etc., and yet maintain the quality of it at the level that you're maintaining it, That's the win-win. And by the way, these are the trends that are driving sales across every category, across every store, across every channel. Let me illustrate that. Several years ago, I wrote a feature article for the 2016 Category Management Handbook, and Nielsen gave me access to all outlet data. And it was amazing what they were able to provide me, which is really cool. But what I was able to do is prove a theory that I had. And so let me illustrate it this way. Total dairy was up 1.5%. That's a multi-billion-dollar all outlet, every outlet category. So total dairy is up 1.5%. Organic dairy was up 12.4%. Organic dairy represented 9.8% of that pie, that small sliver of the pie, right? That small sliver of the pie, if you remove that, then total dairy would be flat and would only be 1.5%. If you look at plant-based, kosher, gluten-free, it doesn't matter. That's even more compounded. Now, we get into plant-based, and we're talking about regenerative agriculture. These things, these ripples in the pond as they're beginning to form, this is what's driving sales across every shelf. The reason people need to be paying attention to this is because we're giving people the technology to skate to where the puck's going and not skate to where the puck's been. Or as I like to say when I'm talking about big brands, what they think is innovation is changing the label on something, and it's really not innovation. People are keen to that. They're aware that that's just this. I don't know, it's a scam. I don't want to say scam, but it's not really true. Exactly. Thank you. So This is what we're talking about in terms of creating that unique opportunity for a brand to differentiate yourself, take a leadership role in the category, and then drive sales throughout entire categories, channels, retailers, etc. And this is what customers are looking at. So, I mean, thank you guys for what you're doing. This is really cool. Any thoughts about what I just said?
I think you're right on, Dan. I mean, I think the most important thing right now is that we're working with a lot of companies that I think really do care about exactly what you're talking about, and that's their focus. That's what they are trying to achieve, which is why they're looking for innovative ways to get there, and both DLT and Oregon Dry Tech represent novel new ways to be able to arrive at that location that you're talking about. And so they're looking to create new products. They're looking to be able to offer consumers products that enable them to get that nutrition that's so important to get. Now, we talk about working with farmers in California or whomever to create, let's say, spinach in a powder form that we put in a bag. Okay, how's that going to impact your general Joe public out there? Well, what we're not saying is that you're going to have that at your home in a 5-kilo bag of dried spinach, and that's going to replace the salad that you go and buy at the local grocery store. But what we are saying is that there are innovative products coming out that you will be able to get that same nutrition content in a powdered form that you can add to your smoothie, or that you can ingest in other ways by sprinkling it on other food products. Things like that become an innovative way to still be able to get that nutrition and help boost that immune profile in your body, either by swallowing it in a capsule, or sprinkling it on a soup, or putting it in your smoothie, or whatever. There's going to be innovative new ways to be able to utilize these products and get that nutrition content into our body to help boost our immune system.
Which is exactly where I was going with that. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, if you think about the fact, like a lot of people, you're talking about making a dried organic soup, which is really cool. I want to know how I can get some of that. But one of the things that my wife does amazing with, is so amazing at, is she takes things like that and adds it to existing products. So, we're talking about functional, and what I'm getting at there is you've got a healthy product, a healthy soup or something like that, and you add a dried something to it to enhance it or make it even better for you. You make a smoothie. For example, one of the things that I've been doing is I drink a lot of whole food type supplement. I put a lot of whole food powders in some of the drinks that I have because it boosts my immunity and so on and so forth. Obviously, I'd like to have something as pure as you, and we're going there. But what I'm getting at is that this is the future. And so, one of the key things that people are trying to do, one of the key trends also are functional ingredients. And so, if you've got an energy bar that's pretty amazing as it is, and now you can add the AFA or something else to it, then you've enhanced the functional ingredients of your bar. And again,
Right.
it's that ripple in the pond that's driving sales across everything else, across every channel. That gives you unique competitive advantage. And then when you go to your retailer, you can leverage the consumer that gets it, that understands it, to drive sales at shelf. Retailers want three things: more profit in their store, more foot traffic in their store. I mean, a reasonable profit, more traffic in their store, and then they want growth in the category and on a competitive advantage. Excuse me. So if you can help a retailer achieve that by leveraging that unique property that's in your ingredients in your package, that's going to help you. And that's my secret sauce. That's what I help brands do, is take your story specifically and bake that into what they're doing, what they're offering. So instead of just looking at things from the commoditized standpoint, male, female, this is salad, this is not, whatever, we're actually getting to the nutrient profile or the attributes that are actually driving those trends at shelf. So thank you for sharing that. When you're talking about your dryer technology, and this is another cool thing that you mentioned, that I love what you guys are doing. Again, we're talking about, people used to bake it or used to cook it or whatever. You cook out the nutrients. Some of the people that are using different versions of this, it's not quite as efficient. So can you talk about your dryers, what's unique about them, and how your dryers are more efficient? And then if you can, kind of weave in your story about the special boats that you made that you used to harvest the algae to begin with. Because I don't want people to think that you're out there with a fishing pole. I'm just kidding. But, how do you skim a lake and get what you need and not what you don't want?
Yeah, it's not. This is definitely going out and harvesting algae is not. You don't take a net and go out on a boat and just scoop it up. That would take a while. So a long time ago, we started working on building specialized harvesters, and so as part of that, we had to build our own engineering and manufacturing capacity in-house. And so we brought some super geniuses on that we love, our engineering team that all work for Tom, and they started building these special boats, and then also we're the ones that started building our dryers. And while I'll let Tom dig in and answer your question a little more about what is special about our boats, our harvest boats, and kind of the process that we go through. One thing to maybe talk about, Tom, also is the new Enviro dryer from Oregon Dry Tech, and what's so special about that. Because while we've talked about our dryers in general, what we do, low, gentle drying with low heat and low moisture content. The new dryers have a number of specialized features that really help in achieving those goals. And so I'll let Tom talk about the new Enviro dryers in a second. But one other thing I wanted to go back to, though, is just in emphasizing the point that you're making. We're a DLT and Oregon Dry Tech are B2B companies. We don't sell our product directly to consumers, but we work with a number of companies that do. I mentioned Cerule. That's cerule.com. CERULE is the name of the company. and they take our products and productize them along with some other products out in the market, and create some phenomenal products that are sold directly to consumers. And then a lot of our other customers are doing the same as well. And some of them we can talk about, and some of them, as Tom said, we're under non-disclosure, and without their specific release and okay, we can't mention who they are. But we're really excited the more that we start doing this with the dryer technology, to see these companies they're coming to us out of the woodworks. It's crazy. And we've got a company up in Canada that's doing blueberries, and they're shipping their blueberries all over the world. And they decided we could ship blueberry powder. It would be cheaper, better. It would last longer, the shelf stability. So they have started doing that with their blueberries. And so we're super excited to be able to support them. And I think pretty soon we'll be building a couple of dryers specifically for them that we'll be installing up in Canada, which is awesome. So there's a number of these things that we're really excited to start seeing finally get out in the marketplace. So you can get products that are using this technology right now from Cerule, and then other products are hitting the market pretty soon. That you'll start seeing products hit the market that were made with our technology. But going back to what you're asking about, maybe Tom can jump in and talk about our harvest technology and what we do, and then the new Enviro dryer from Oregon Dry Tech.
Certainly, thanks, Greg. Now you're getting into my core competency, which is exciting for us. If you were to go out into the marketplace and try to find a company that manufactures on an industrial scale algae, there's none. There's no Amazon that we call for algae. There's nothing that gets delivered to us. And we quickly found that vertical integration on our part, by definition, is hiring everybody that we need to bring in-house and control the quality at which we put out a product, became paramount for our business model. So we brought on, we're very robust on the science side. So on the food technology side, we're super heavy on the science side. We approach everything from a scientific point of view. But when it comes to actually building things that we need, or retrofitting things that are necessary for us to maximize the quality of our product line, we had to bring it in-house. And Howard Newman and Greg were very, innovative in thinking that's what we needed to do. So anyhow, that's what we did. We went out and found the very best fabrication folks that we could in the marketplace, brought them in-house, and created 3 different methodologies for taking algae out of the lake. Because all of it has to be on an industrial scale. We do hundreds of thousands of gallons worth of algae a year, and you're not going to do that with a net or a 5-gallon bucket. So one of the methodologies is a vacuum system that we use. All of these are very dependent on the environmental conditions of a lake. We harvest a wild harvest. We have no choice what the environmental conditions are. All we can do is contort to whatever those are. So the 3 different methodologies that we use are a vacuum system. The lake has to be dead flat. There can be no wind whatsoever out on the lake. And by using that, that garnishes a very large quantity of algae in a day. We can basically vacuum about 50,000 gallons a day if the conditions are correct. We also used a string harvesting methodology that actually Howard Newman, Greg's father, invented while he was fishing on the bank of Klamath Lake. And you found that a certain.
Sorry, Tom.
Go ahead.
You jokingly said that, and I was chuckling inside. About fishing for algae, and that literally was what happened for this string harvesters. My dad was fishing on the lake, and as he pulled up the line, he noticed that the algae stuck to the fishing line. And that gave him an idea, and so they started playing with it, and that led to one of our key innovations on harvesting algae in the lake, which is called our string harvester. So go ahead, Tom. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, that's a great interruption, because that's literally, he was fishing, and the guy was his whole life was in a constant state of research and development in the nutraceutical industry. So for him, he saw something that nobody had ever seen. And what he found is just the physicality of the AFA algae tend to cling to a string or a certain test line where all of the other algae that happen to grow that aren't so positive and have very negative traits out on the lake fell off of. So it was also a natural filtration that we could kind of do prior to hitting our pre-process center on the lake. So that's the two methodologies. The third one, and the most innovative one that we recently, our team, strictly our fabrication team came up with and proved the concept, is a skimming process, where it actually, the algae that grows on the lake is it's a surface algae that grows in the top column while the sun is out, and when it blooms, we have the ability to just skim it along the lake. Now the conditions almost always have to be, they don't have to be ideal, but they don't have to be dead flat. But that ends up right now being our best methodology for extracting algae from the lake. And all of those innovations happened in-house here. Now, since then, there's been a couple other companies that have kind of pseudo-copied, some of the things that we did, because it was industrialized and brought out large quantities, and we're okay with that for the most part. So that pretty much talks about what happens on the lake. Those are the three methods. We have the string harvesters, we have the vacuum system, and we also have the skimming method. But most excitingly is we've gone through lots of iterations and versions of our Enviro dryer, and what we're most excited about, and what we heard in the marketplace, even from people that you've mentioned, is the difficulty that every company has, depending on, it doesn't matter what the methodology of drying is, if you don't have the ability to control relative humidity, then that's where most of these companies are finding degradation in their ability to preserve their food. The more moisture in whatever you're packaging, the more opportunity that organisms and bacteria growth occurs, and that's where we really are most excited. We have created, the reason we call them Enviro dryers is we actually encapsulate the dryers inside of a room. Think of either refrigeration or freezer panels that are pre-GMP certified, and we absolutely control the relative humidity inside of that box. We also put air scrubbers in there that keep the air particulate at as well as low as possible. We wouldn't call it a clean room, but we would say we're just short of a clean room. It scrubs the air and exchanges all of the air inside of that box 5 to 6 times an hour. So you can imagine, you warm that room up and turn on the dehumidification in it, and within an hour you're ready to roll. And the product coming off of the dry end of that has no chance of reconstituting itself, because you happen to be manufacturing on a day that is high in humidity. So those are some of the major problems that we saw in the marketplace. We put our team on it, and it took a couple of years to figure out, but we finally figured out a way of circumventing the biggest problem that we found out there, and which really has stepped up the ability for us to dry these organic foods with no preservatives and give them shelf life at ambient temperature, which is super important to know. So a lot of these, there's some products that do need to be refrigerated and frozen, but the majority of what we dry can be dried at ambient and stored at ambient temperature. So
cool.
Just to add one more point to what Tom was talking about with the Enviro Dry features. So what happened was we were drying things, and as we were measuring the moisture content of what was coming off the dryers, it was perfect. It's below 5% moisture, and that's kind of the target. And that would be perfect. But over the course of a couple of hours, that dry product is coming and collecting into a bag, And after a couple of hours, that bag is collected and then moved on to processing, where it's tested again. And lo and behold, wait a second, the moisture content jumped up to 10. Wait, what's going on? Well, if you've got a high humidity day and that super dry product is sitting in a bag, guess what it's going to do? It's going to start sucking moisture out of the air. And so then while we're testing it, while it's drying, it's measuring perfect. But because of the ambient environment, we would notice that we would run into problems with keeping that moisture content at those ideal levels. And so by creating a box around the dryer, a room around the dryer, where we literally can control the environment and where we can actually keep it nice and dry and the relative humidity super low, now that product could sit in there for the several hours that it needs for us to collect enough without having the problem of it sucking up ambient moisture out of the air. And so that was the purpose, is being able to control the ambient environment was something that nearly everybody we talked to complained about. And we experienced it ourselves as well. So we're also fixing our own problem. But in the meantime, we think we've addressed a major problem in the market that we're really excited about. And all of this is in the process of patent pending, and so we've got a lot of very exciting, patents that we've been working on for a while that we think will be very important for us going forward.
Love what you guys are doing. Go ahead.
Yeah, and yeah, Greg puts an exclamation point on what we heard from the industry and we tried to address. It wasn't an easy thing to address. We went through about 6 iterations and revisions on what we finally settled on, and once we settled on it, we have proved the concept, and it definitely exceeded what we had as a minimum expectation, and it just blew past it. The product is second to none coming off. And really, if you're going to nutshell what we do, then I would say we take an organic product without decimating or massive degradation to the flavor profile, aroma, and color. And we take it to a level of dehydration that self-preserves. We keep the temperatures very low. We do exceed the 150 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the actual kill step that keeps other bacteria from growing. That's required by the FDA for GMP certification. And then now that we've completely controlled the environment as it comes out of the drying mechanism, there's no additional hydration in the or in ambient humidity in the air to take what we've taken almost to 2.5% moisture content, which is super low. No bacteria can grow in that arid or dry of an environment and sustain it. So there's no, and you can imagine something that's that dry and that dehydrated that it becomes very hygroscopic, almost a sponge. It's just looking for moisture in the air, and we have just negated that. There is no moisture in the air. So that's what really sets us apart from other folks, both preserving all 3 of those qualities that we've mentioned multiple times, and absolutely controlling the relative humidity coming off of the end of the mechanism.
Cool. I spent a lot of time focused on packaging. And so we do talk about some of the issues that brands run into. And of course, moisture is the devil. It's the evil of every product that has to face. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things, I was thinking about how this is the ultimate slow food, another big trend that people are thinking about. One of the things that you mentioned earlier was the stem cell part. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that's relevant? Because that's a term that has some negative connotations because people don't understand it because of all the noise around it. But yet this is a game changer in science, and this is the game changer in helping us grow and thrive. It provides Well, I'll let you go ahead and talk about it, please.
Sure. Well, when we first started working on this, it was a theory that one of our scientists came up with that some of these compounds actually increase the amount of stem cell activity in our body. And at the time, the medical community was just really started switching on to, hey, stem cells are important, everyone. And the world were, you're right, confused. I think there's still some confusion, but in general, our stem cells in our body repair and regenerate our entire body. And so this is how we, cells in your body regenerate and are replaced every so often, depending on what kind of cell it is. And the way that that happens in our body are stem cells. And stem cells are called to a certain part of our body to repair from damage. If you cut yourself, stem cells, come and repair that area. And so there's certain messenger molecules that get sent out in your body to attract stem cells to the areas that are needed to repair or regenerate. And what we found is that certain compounds within AFA, blue-green algae, are actually increase the number of those messenger cells within our body. If you're a science type, those messenger cells are called cytokines, and that then dramatically increases the movement of stem cells in your body. And so what we found is that these compounds within AFA increased your own body's stem cell stimulation by 30%. So an increase of stem cells flowing throughout your body is a major breakthrough and a really great thing for health, general health, and for regeneration. And so we have multiple double-blind, placebo-controlled studies that we've done. Because as Tom mentioned, science is one of the kind of core tenets of our company, and we started doing that from the very beginning. So we proved out using the scientific method that this indeed generates more stem cell migration in our body, and that has been shown scientifically in other studies and journals to be beneficial for our overall health. And so we created that product. We called it Stem Enhance, and that's one of the products the consumers can get from Cerule. They sell that exclusively, and that's their big number one product, and they sell it throughout the world. So it's a phenomenal product. It really does work. Anecdotally, we've gotten so many people that have been helped around the world by that product that it's really exciting. And I don't go into anecdotal stories. I like to focus on the science, but I have to tell you, there's a million and one stories out there about what Stem Enhance has done for people. So it's exciting to see. And then it also is a major immune boost product as well. So there's huge immune properties within Stem Enhance as well, helping to boost people's immune system.
And Greg, one thing I wanted to elaborate on is, I'm not sure if this is what you were alluding to, but when you're talking about a stem cell product, sometimes there could be some negative religious connotations that go along with that, and
True.
We have none whatsoever. We get wild algae out of the lake, and that's what's responsible for the additional migration of stem cells. So I would say if it doesn't matter what side of either the aisle or the debate that you happen to sit on, we sit dead center with not offending either one. We're just a healthy way of making your body kind of turbocharge its repairability. That's it.
That's a great way to put it, Tom. And you're right. That's a good point. A lot of early stem cell stuff were around questionable ethical stem cell harvesting techniques that were being used by the pharma industry and by scientists that caused a lot of people to be put off from anything having to do with stem cells. Well, we have nothing to do with that. Just like Tom said, we found natural compounds within algae that actually turbocharges your body's stem cell response, which is a great way to put it. I like what Tom said. So that's.
Well, thank you for the clarification, and thank you for sharing that, because that's what this is all about, helping people understand what's really going on, what really matters, etc. And, you know, the notion that you guys are able to take plant-based products, which are regenerative, etc. I mean, there's an abundance of them, and then enhance them, make them even better, and make them more available. That's great. Thank you for coming on today. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you want to share?
I think the key thing for us is, from a B2B standpoint with our algae, there's select people that we work with. Our supply of algae is limited in that we don't commercially harvest. It's wild harvest. So whatever Mother Nature gives us is what we have on a year-to-year basis. So we don't take on lots and lots of companies, but we still have room to be able to work with select customers that really understand and get what it is we're doing and the benefits of our specialized rare algae products. So we're always looking for new customers in that regard, people that want to create innovative products with unique ingredients, and that's what we provide on the Desert Lake Technology side. And then, of course, on the dryer side, we're always looking for new customers there, people that want to toll dry with us in our Southern Oregon facility, or even companies that are interested in investing and buying their own dryers. So anybody who can help, check out our website at OregonDryTech.com. Or our algae site at desertlake.com, and we'll provide all those links for you, Dan, that you can post in the notes.
Great, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time today, and thanks for making us all smarter. Thank you, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks so much, Dan.
Thank you, Daniel. We're just a bunch of aqua farmers out in Southern Oregon trying to make the world healthy. That's it.
Up at 4 o'clock in the morning, milking the cows. Just kidding. What a visual. No, that's great.
Exactly.
No, that's cool. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
I want to thank Greg, Tom, and Richard for coming on today and for sharing their insights. I hope you found this episode inspiring. Think all the creative things that you could do if you had access to this kind of technology. Think about how you could improve a product, how you could disrupt the category. That's what this show is about, giving the strategies and the ideas to help you disrupt the way we think about food even more, to help you differentiate your product against all the other products on the shelf, and to help you stand out against your competition and your competitors. I'll be certain to put a link to Desert Lake Technologies and Oregon Dry Tech on the show notes and on the podcast webpage. This week's free downloadable guide is Essential New Item Checklist, the recipe for success. This is the foundation that you want to build your brand on. These are the foundational elements that you need to be thinking about as you grow and scale your brand. More importantly, if you've got these foundational elements in place at the beginning, then it's going to help you excel and grow even faster than it would otherwise. You can get that as well as this week's show notes on brandsecretsandstrategies.com/session 181. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.